give them one of those mics for the time being.
Okay,
Tell
well, I'm
them
gonna
that
give
we're
two.
working on the- Yeah, two.
I think it's 12 and 13 or 14, something
Yeah,
like that, 12 and 13.
so, yeah, so now, let me see here. Can you click on the thing? Let me see here, hold on,
All right, let me try this one.
hold on, let me just,
Ready?
hold on.
Yeah.
That one's not sounding.
Has to.
Huh?
It has to eventually.
Let me see, hold on. Let's see here.
That's this one.
That one is fine, hold
What
on.
number is that?
That's number 2029.
20?
29, hold on. I'll fix this later on. At least, if you could give me one mic, some people can hear, that will be fine.
Well, I gotta give the podium one too.
Well,
But this ought to work.
Huh?
This has to be one of them.
Hold on, let me see here.
You said this was 20?
Hit it.
13, so try 14, no?
Let me see here. Just give them the mic, and just give them one mic for now,
Okay.
so they can hear you.
Yeah, but I gotta give them two, because you know what I mean?
Oh, no, yeah, but but at least people can hear it outside. That's
Okay. Yeah, but
until
I don't know
we
who's
get
gonna
the
be
other
doing the talking. No, all right, I'll do what I can. But I wish before I go out there, we knew what this one is. I mean, it's got plenty of battery in it.
Hold on, let me see here. Hold on, hit it again. Hold on, let me see here. Hold on, which one is it that sounds good, better?
Right here, wireless one.
Yeah.
What's that, 20 you said?
29.
29, okay.
And the other one? And the other one is? Local, I don't know who's this here. It's unbelievable. Let me see here again. Okay, you know what? All right, let's do this. Hold on, let me. Okay, so let me see. Let me see who's. Let me see here. Let me see here. J compressor direct on PG. Let me see here. 48 volt. Hold on.
Yep.
Let me see who's this here. Inputs. Do you remember the number that?
29.
No. The one that. The one that. Podium.
You said 14, I think, right?
Yeah, 148 volts. The 48 volts have to. Yeah, I think you should give it. We'll bring the mic. Is Giovanni's? Let's see here. So 48 volts. Let me see here. Okay. All right. So let me just go home again. Okay. So you know what? Look, I'm gonna turn on. I'm gonna turn on all. Let me see here. Input. Okay. Now I'm turning on the 48 volts here
Okay.
on some. All of them kind of like Analevi should work. Let me see. Podium. I don't know which one is the podium, but
Podium, you said was maybe 14. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, that's a
We
road-
drafted something to present to the board as a
Good.
variance. I don't know if you have that, a copy of that, but I have it here.
Yep, an application for permanent temporary which we
I
drafted,
see the light on,
but
too.
not
Good.
limited to that list there.
Yeah,
The location of the trailers, the number of dumpsters, waste disposal plan. Okay,
Well, it should be, but I put it with the button, maybe.
Yep.
site trailers, site cleanliness plan. Definitely. So they've already come and gone, or they're
they're already come and gone.
this is the first time?
I'll go up and try.
Is that too high? Well, to tell you the truth, I do see
What a
that
pain in the
across the street
faces out
from
there.
us, there's the festival happening. I don't know if they're not at the Showcase Cinema. I don't know where they're at, but they usually come in 3 phases. And well, I did witness that they have it across the street at
No.
the Compagnon.
Sure you get
Park.
all the other ones?
As far as the, not trailers or temporary housing, but the festival campers and stuff like that, I have no idea. They're not there.
But if they do come back, they understand that they will need to apply for a permit, and then we would expect them to fulfill these requirements.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't see anything more that we need to do for now. I mean, it's been pretty clear what we need to do. And I think the board would only need to get involved, well, we would need to issue a temporary housing plan.
What the code requires is that they apply for a permit for temporary housing. And the code assumes that it's not gonna meet every aspect of the code. So what the code requires is, very simply, all temporary housing shall be subject to requirements of the code, except as the Board of Health may otherwise provide in its written permission. So in other words, you have to do a written permission, or like a permit, but it's really written permission that says you shall be able to do the following with the following restrictions or provisions. So in other words, for example, hot water doesn't meet the minimum requirements, so you have to say it's okay. Or, and that will be the staff's responsibility. That, right,
Requirements that they will not be able to meet.
or those are the, whatever. So in other words, when we were there, I think there was only 4 porta potties for about 40 people.
Right.
That's inadequate. There was no dumpster for
Right.
waste disposal. No dumpster for waste
Children.
disposal. Gray water was being discharged directly to like a stagnant pond.
No.
The water is being serviced, the potable water there was being serviced through a connection to a fire hydrant, and I don't believe the hoses were appropriate for potable water. And that water might be used for drinking and other purposes. So there's a number of, those are just some of the issues that's described in the review here. And it's not, again, to meet all the components of the code, it's really to deal with really safety and.
Primary safety.
Right.
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
okay, so we'll just wait to see if they request to come back.
I would like to notify the members that as of this afternoon, they have been setting up over at the cinema location. Yes.
okay.
So, we understand as well that, this festival, they go to different, cities, and, they service our, neighboring towns, and their setup location is in Lawrence.
Okay, so they know they were supposed to fly, and they
Correct.
haven't applied.
Correct.
And so the next step would be to shut them down, or sign them, or do what? Do you think? I mean, you've already explained to them that this is important. Have they had a re-inspection regarding these items? Is there anybody here representing the Essex County?
No, there's nobody here.
Is there anybody here representing the owner of Showcase Cinema?
No.
No.
Well, Showcase Cinema that's been demolished, but we believe it's still owned
By John Flynn.
no, the showcase site.
No, the site itself is owned by another property owner.
Okay.
But the Fiesta Carnival is owned by, the business is owned by John Flynn.
My,
Okay.
my, if I may, my recommendation is that they've been doing this apparently for a number of years without any oversight. And I understand that they most likely believe they can continue doing so without the oversight that's required. Let's say they are operating right now. Depending on what we were seeing, I would recommend that, again, allow them to operate because they're already setting up their festival, but they have to be under strict order that for future operations, they must comply with the Board of Health requirements in the state sanitary code.
So are they making any mitigating plans? Are they getting more porta potties? Are they
That could, depending again,
Depending.
exactly. So for example, if you go out there tomorrow and they don't have a dumpster, they must have a dumpster. If
Right.
they don't have enough porta potties, they must have enough porta potties. The minimum is my recommendation.
Yeah.
And if they refuse to comply with that, then I.
Then
think-
we would cite monetary fine or
Cease
fine
and
themselves,
desist order.
cease and desist order, things like that.
Who spoke, from our department with John?
As far as, when we were on site on the 25th, there was several,
The 15th.
the 15th, excuse me, there was multiple officials there, so everybody spoke with him.
Building.
Multiple officials from law.
Yeah, fire department,
There was
building
also-
department.
There was also a fire watch placed on the.
And there was a fire watch placed on that day of, during the time by the fire department.
So it would be very interesting to see if they made any effort to.
Right,
To
Comply.
do what was recommended, and make sure that they understand in the future, they have to apply for a temporary housing permit. And also request through the board a variance to not comply with all the standards. So there's a plan to go back out. Do we know how long they're gonna be there?
what was the question again?
Do we know how long they're gonna be there?
I don't know,
I mean, if they're gonna be there for the whole season, or Andover, Billerica, or they're doing all these different carnivals in different
Most likely.
communities. I mean,
it's likely, but we're not sure about the duration of time.
like, primary contact person that.
We do have a primary contact, which is John Flynn.
Was he receptive to the,
Yeah, he appears to be, yeah.
but didn't apply for the permit?
Not that we have on record. Right. He maybe nodded his yes, but the follow-through wasn't there.
It's definitely a transient operation where they were here for a week, week and a half.
Yeah.
He did inform us on that visit on May 15th, that he would be out of that site by that Sunday morning.
But didn't tell you that he was coming back and like.
Well, not only that, but even though he said that he was gonna leave on Sunday morning, he did not. He
Right,
stayed longer.
it stayed a little longer.
So there's some inconsistencies in the information we were receiving from him.
Well, it would be nice to hear your report when,
Yep.
when you go back out there.
Fair enough.
I mean, those guys exist in all over the country. And they're kind of like, they're like shadow.
Yeah,
They pop in, they pop out. I'm not surprised that they didn't apply for a permit. They probably don't in most places they could.
Or those places that require it, they don't stay.
right.
So we have to make it a little bit more difficult for them because it is in Mexico City. And it's also for the protection of their own employees, really.
Correct, yeah. At the end of the day, I mean, we want things to be, quality and safe. So,
Okay, well, very interesting. All right, well, thank you so much.
thank you.
Okay, so, that, I believe,
Okay.
is easy to go back to. Okay, so that was, we talked about major supermarket, 606 Canal Street, Fiesta Carnival. All the rest of the items, I believe, have been tabled. So, anything else? We want to congratulate you ahead of time on the pending birth of your child.
Thank you.
Vanessa. Very happy before centimeters.
Thank you.
Okay, we can discuss that. Tell me more.
So, on the internet, I've been on the internet in the last month advertising for Vibrant, and I encountered over 80 illegal or unlicensed kitchens, whether they're home-based in the backyard or inside an unregistered facility. They can pose serious risks to the public in the city of Lawrence, where many food entrepreneurs may informally, where work informally and lack the regulations can lead to unintentional harm. These places are working with no health inspections. These kitchens aren't inspected by local departments, meaning there's no oversight, sanitation, code, pest control, or food handling information or knowledge. A high risk of foodborne illnesses without food safety training or proper refrigeration equipment. Food can become contaminated with bacteria like Salmonella and Listerine. No allergy-controlled individuals with severe allergies are at high risk, since there are no legal requirements to label or separate allergen-containing foods. Improper waste disposal. I noticed going into the internet, there were several of these businesses that made it a business. I went into their Facebook, and they had over 10 ads advertising food doing deliveries. Please, we need to be responsible to our customers. Plus, look at Lawrence right now, the small business owners, they are in a lot of, they're ready to close down. There isn't a lot of movement and sales in the city of Lawrence, and it is unfortunate that so many kitchens are selling illegally from their house. And I have to admit, some of their food does look good, but we need to be responsible. I've seen sorts of selling pupusas to fried chicken to all sorts of foods. We need to be responsible and not advertise selling your food that you illegally sell from your home. Thank you.
Okay, I just have a question. This problem must exist in other communities, I'm sure. How do other communities approach these, what we call ghost kitchens, I guess? People just cooking in their homes and selling and advertising on social media. Is there any vehicle or
Yeah, all right. It's called cottage food industry by code, but it's like home kitchens, residential kitchens, that kind of thing. There are strict regulations established by the state. It is allowed under certain conditions and other conditions not. So for example, if it's potentially hazardous foods, the answer is no. So potentially hazardous foods. So for example, let's say it was seafood, or you saw a request for a HACCP variance, that could never be done out of a kitchen, at a home kitchen rather. Also, there's regulations regarding if it's being wholesaled or not, or if it's just a retail operation. The way other communities handle it generally is they watch them, they hear from other people. You know, some people might call to complain. They also find out by watching the internet, the social media. And by watching the social media, then they respond to these and they track it down. So for example, you know, if there's something on, on Facebook or what have you, or there might be a posting from, in the local newspaper that says, oh, there's going to be an event and it's being supplied by. Also, that's how they handle it for the most part. And then they do an inspection. And if it meets code, fine. If it doesn't, or...
do they have to have a permit?
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. In most cases, for example, there's certain restrictions or certain conditions, no, but the vast majority, yes.
So it's about education, outreach, and
But you need the deeper resources of a department that has enough resources to respond to these issues or these conditions. And I think you're in the process of getting there, but you're not there yet.
that brings me to the next subject I'd just like to talk briefly about is on the agenda, of shared services. Where are we at, in your opinion, with the shared services grant? What's the next step that we need to take as a city to get this continuing to move forward?
Somebody else could speak a little bit more about the shared services. I'm only a consultant with them, but Methuen is moving. Obviously, you've now established the agreement with Methuen and Lawrence. And I just want to remind the board that you've been granted it's not a variance, but like a variance, to have a two municipality shared services. The code typically requires 3 or more, and you're one of the few that has 2, which is fine. It allows you to work more closely with Methuen to really fine tune and tailor your needs. I would suggest that using the advisory board to advocate for Lawrence's needs, as well as collaborating with Methuen, so you can actually share in a more robust manner what your needs are. Right, 7. There's 7 members now, yes.
So right now, there is no advisory board yet.
I do not believe it's met yet, but I would highly encourage,
Each community appoints or assigns members to be a part of the advisory.
okay, you're right, you're asking me because I haven't looked at that agreement for a while, but I believe that there's one member from the board, from both communities. I believe that the chair is the chief operating officer from the Lawrence Hospital. And there's, am I correct? Yes, and there's a few, Isabel might have more information about it. But, I think your overall influence as to how the shared services will ultimately be structured and what are your needs and advocating for your needs is appropriately placed in the advisory committee or the advisory board. And it's an opportunity also for you to understand the real workings of the shared services program and where it's moving towards and what the goals are and what the needs are.
Thank you.
Sure.